Good morning, Mr. Campbell. How are you this morning?
Doing great. Good to see you.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad to have this opportunity to chat with you this morning. Here, I'm at my memory group office in downtown Williamsburg, and I've got you on this call today for about 10 or 15 minutes for the first time. This is what I want to call our legal minute. And got Richard Campbell here with your attorney presence to shine some light on some really important subjects. One of the things that we try to do here is make sure that people are informed and educated about things that they may need to know about with regards to real estate. You have a high level specialty. You focus on real estate law. So you do a lot of real estate closings for our office here in Williamsburg. I know you also have an office in Portsmouth. And this is just a great opportunity for me to introduce what you do to our community here a little bit. And in our community, we got people there, who knows where they are necessarily, but family, friends, clients, and folks that are looking to learn about real estate, want to understand more about the important things that they should know about real estate. And I want to help them overcome fears, concerns, worries, but there's certain things that they really should know when it comes to owning real estate. And I want to let you have kind of the field here to talk about some of the specialties that you do with real estate. So with no further ado, Richard Campbell, welcome and good morning and happy March 15th.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Richard Campbell. I've practiced law about 12 years. I'm originally from Richmond, spent a few years in the Air Force, and then when I separated, I went into the National Guard and graduated VCU for undergrad in political science, and then went down to Campbell Law School, and I worked for the federal prosecutor down there for a little while, and then moved back to Richmond to take the Virginia bar. And then after that, I moved to Virginia Beach and helped run a real estate law practice there. And then eventually I ended up opening my own firm about 7 years ago. So I mainly deal in real estate, but really mainly dealing in real estate means you tangentially deal with a whole lot of other problems that may come up while people own real estate. So we handle a lot of estate issues, estate planning. We handle bankruptcy issues when our sellers have issues that pertain to that. We're currently helping a couple clients with things like that. And then also we help with corporate structuring and also acting in our capacity as settlement agent for assisting investor clients when they want to accomplish a 1031 exchange. So it's a whole lot of moving pieces all around, I guess, the real estate practice itself is, I guess, the best way I would explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do a lot more than just real estate closings.
Yes.
You get dive deep, which is really where I know that there's a ton of value that you can add to folks here, that whether they're looking to own real estate or that they currently own real estate, maybe they want to invest in real estate. And then you also get into, you mentioned it, a little bit of estate planning. Maybe that's a topic, since we also talk about downsizing, because you're part of our local downsizing program here in the greater Williamsburg area. Love to tell us a little bit more about kind of what you do with the estate planning aspects of law.
Well, with estate planning, really purchasing real estate for the majority of Americans is going to be the largest purchase of their lifetime.
Absolutely.
Mean, maybe having a child is, I have two, though they're pretty expensive too, but generally purchasing a piece of real estate is going to be the most expensive thing that any individual is going to do. And really, to protect themselves and what they want to accomplish at their passing, really a great estate plan is needed. I like to talk to all my clients at closings if in any way estate planning comes up, so I can answer their questions and try to let them know. The majority of people if you're just doing regular estate planning, they really only need a simple will. Sometimes you need a trust, but and I could go on and on for hours about different types of estate planning. But generally, it just comes up because really to protect clients, sometimes in the middle of a closing, it'll just jump out that the people need estate planning because the people will be newly married, but it's later on in life and it's their second marriage and they have children from a pre-existing relationship. And in those situations, a will is pretty much invaluable because I can guarantee you the intestate statute in Virginia does not accomplish what those clients would want in their minds, which is why you need a will. So sometimes, you got a newly married couple, no children, just moved to the area. Should they have a will? Yes, but is one 1,000% necessary to accomplish their goals? Maybe not, because the husband probably wants the wife to get everything, or the wife wants the husband to get everything, or they just want their partners to get everything. But sometimes, I guess it's kind of like spidey senses with law. You just, something comes up in the middle of a closing and you just know these people need a little bit of estate planning, which is another great reason to always use an attorney for settlement instead of a title company, because they might not realize that. And that's kind of an added value that an attorney gives to settlement that you may not get elsewhere, where someone's just looking for, hey, well, I heard that, let me fix this issue, and then they can at least bring it to the client's attention. And then sometimes the clients say, we'll call you in a month, and sometimes they want to fill in a will questionnaire right then at the closing table. So it's completely up to clients, but yeah, it does kind of dovetail together a lot.
Yeah, I think that that's something that we also tell clients when we're working with them choosing a title or closing company. It is certainly advantageous to have an attorney that's doing that closing, because it's not unusual for an issue to pop up. Often, we often find times where something weird pops up during the closing process, and it's nice to have an attorney handling that closing, just simply to leverage it through to closing. Not a heavy hammer or anything, but making sure that things go smoothly. It's nice to have things go really smoothly. So we appreciate the closings that you do for us, for one thing.
I appreciate the opportunity. And just talking, I know we were gonna talk about different corporate entities.
I have a feeling that could be a lengthy conversation. So I feel like if we can break some of that up into smaller bits, we could probably get some really cool value added information on some of those subject matters. We can introduce it a little bit today if you want, or split it up into some segments for future calls.
I had kind of worked out kind of a breakdown. So today I just kind of want to just give like a kind of quick overview of the different types of corporate entities.
Yes.
And then kind of why different types of investors would use them.
Absolutely.
So there are LLCs, which are limited liability companies, and a limited liability company has members, and the members are the owners. And then there's an operating agreement, which is kind of the playbook of what the LLC should be doing and how the members should be running it. The benefit of having an LLC is it's one of the easiest business corporate entities to set up. And it also offers probably the most leeway in having availability to change course and do whatever the owners deem necessary. Now, if you have another corporate entity that is a member of an LLC, then it actually forms a partnership, and we'll get into tax ramifications later. But basically, limited liability companies are your easiest business entity that you can form and gives the most leeway. So the average investor, an LLC is probably what's going to fit with them the best. Then you have corporations, but there's a C corporation and an S corporation. A C corporation is not a pass-through entity and subjects you to double the tax. I can tell you, in my experience, I've never had a client ask for a C Corp. Now, that being said, you should always speak with your accountant and see what they say. I'm sure there's got to be a rational reason why someone eventually would choose a C Corp. But the majority of people would choose an S Corp because it's pass through. And the benefit of an S Corp is an S Corp, you can pay yourself a salary, you can set it up, payroll. If you do pay yourself a salary, you can avoid the self-employment tax where you can't do that with an LLC. Also, corporations have shareholders. They're not members, they're shareholders. And an LLC normally has a member or a manager that runs everything, where a corporation has a president, a vice president, it can have a secretary. It depends on what you want to form. And then the last kind of entity that we would use with real estate would be a trust. And a trust does not fall under the corporate guidelines. So you don't need to maintain all of the corporate formalities that you would have to have with an LLC, an S Corp, or a C Corp. However, a trust, depending on what you're doing with it, the trust may actually be more expensive to set up than the S Corp, the C Corp, or the LLC. But it also does not raise any flags with the government as far as you don't have to create an EIN number for the trust, because you could just be using your own social. But though that's the overview of the different types of entities that you would use with real estate, as far as trying to avoid different liabilities and everything like that. And then I was hoping next week we could talk about the different types of asset protection and liability limitations, so we could go into which one offers the most protection and why. And it will probably be determined by the size of the asset class that you're putting into the corporate entity. But yeah, and that was kind of what I had today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's really great. I really appreciate your introducing that. And certainly there's more discussion subjects in each of those segments. You could probably talk for hours on any given one. I did want to kind of mention too that there's also, so we're talking land trust. When you mentioned trust, you're talking mostly about land trusts, correct? And then of course, then we got living trusts that are more encompassing of.
I'm talking about just trust in general, but
okay.
But when we go over trust, I could give you a different breakdown. But in reality, trusts are all going to be governed by the Code of Virginia. So generally, they're all going to fall under the same rules. It's just what asset class you're funding the trust with, and the purpose would determine whether you wanted to just do like a revocable living trust or a land trust. That's really what determines it. Is this for only for this real estate? Because in reality, you've got another larger family trust, and you don't want the real estate to be tied into that trust because of whatever you're doing with that piece of real estate. That's what it really comes down to.
Well, I definitely look forward to talking more about that, because it's a subject of interest. And I know that a lot of real estate investors, and I know a lot of real estate investors dive deep into this and do a lot of things with asset protection inside of trusts and LLCs and so forth. And then there's folks that I talk to regularly that are so worried about getting their instruments and their entities set up before they even worry about getting investing. They're so afraid of doing anything, and it sort of inhibits them from getting started. But I love that we can help people understand what it is so that they can get started and then prepare themselves. I think it's always better to get started. But of course, you want to avoid as much risk as possible. You can be a fantastic attorney to help them through the challenges that they're facing. And so I'm so glad to be able to offer your services as a resource. And I love that we can have these conversations. Richard, thank you so much for this.
And I just suggest, if anyone's watching and you have like questions or comments, if you just put those in, the next time John and I talk, we'll try to cover those, if it's okay with you, John.
Absolutely. No, that's exactly what I wanted to suggest. Yes, we definitely invite interaction and conversation. This is a great opportunity to ask legal questions of Richard Campbell, who's a very skilled and knowledgeable real estate attorney. with all kinds of other different aspects of legal questions. Now, of course, we're gonna have to limit some of that because I know we could go really deep on that. But with the opportunity to engage in some conversations here, we'll be able to ask some general questions and address some specific things here so that people's interests are being addressed. And of course, Richard, your contact information will be right in the description on the page. I have your office phone number and your address in there. If you have any other questions, certainly you can reach out to me, post your questions here on the page. But if you have any real estate related questions, you can reach out to me directly. If you need to get in touch with Richard in an emergency situation, Richard, right now I've just got your office phone number, but I would suggest they can email me and I can kind of help them, get filtered a little bit on what kind of things you would want, unless
well, you can always go on my website if you need immediate assistance, law757.com. And if you click the comment section and you enter in a question or a comment on the contact sheet, it comes directly to me. So if you would like to go on there, just understand that gets monitored maybe once or twice a day. It's not exactly as fast as my email or a phone call, but if you just have a general question and you just want some general help, that's a good way to do it.
Perfect. I will make sure that your website address is right there in the description as well. This is awesome, Richard. Thank you so much for this time. I definitely look forward to our future conversations, and I really appreciate it. I'll let you get on about your day, and we will talk again soon.
No problem. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.